You are listening to the Bat Flip Podcast, a baseball podcast from Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Damian and Matt.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Bat Flip Podcast. My name is Damian, here with my co-host Matt, coming to you on June 15th of 2021. Can you believe that this is already episode 40, Matt?
It's unbelievable. We're almost to a year here, probably a month and a half.
Yeah, we're coming up pretty dang close on a year of this deal.
Yeah.
So what's going on this week with you?
Not too much. Just moved into my place last week, and not too much going on other than that. Been real
Enjoying it?
busy. Yeah, so far I am. It's been cool. So it's definitely an adjustment. It's different, but I'm getting used to it. So still in the process of getting stuff put up and organized and everything. So, but it's been good so far.
I hear that. Well, it's going to be some exciting. I mean, we get to finally meet in person this weekend, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Heading out to Nashville for the NASCAR weekend.
Yeah,
But
that's gonna be great.
it'd be pretty fun to be able to see the whole friend group and whatever. But
Yeah.
so on today's show, we it's come up to the point where all-star voting is in the process. We just got back the first results. So we're going to kind of break that down and then go over our all-star ballot, and we're going to actually submit one as a show. But before we want to talk about that, there's a big spectacle going on in the game right now. I guess that's what you want to call it, around pitchers and foreign substances, and if they should be allowed, what should not be allowed, and the big crackdown that MLB is going to start enforcing. I believe it's on Monday, is when they're going to start enforcing it. But pretty much pitchers have been taking advantage of the fact that Major League Baseball doesn't check if they use foreign substances, as of like pine tar, sunscreen a lot is known a lot, rosin. But the main thing that people have started using is what's called Spider Tack, and I guess it's a super sticky deal that was meant for the world's strongest man competitions to help them lift like the big old stones and everything. Well, now pitchers are starting to use that on baseballs to help their ball spin more.
Yeah, it's one of those things where this is something that's been going on for, 3 or 4 years. It's been a big thing in the game recently that guys have been increasing their spin rates, and they've done a lot of work on that. And as it turns out, some of that work they've been doing on that has been stuff they're not actually doing things better. They're just putting stuff on their hands that are making things better for them, which is against the rules. You're not supposed to use any kind of foreign substances in games as a pitcher. It's been against the rules for a long time, and it's one of those things where there's been a lot of talk about it over the past couple years, and especially this year with the foreign substance. But over the last few years, been a lot of talk about how much spin rates are increasing, and that's led to a sharp increase in strikeouts, partially because of that, obviously, and then a lot of increased swing and miss, and which I think a lot of people have rightfully talked about that not being good for the game to have so much more extra swing and miss. So
Yeah, and it's been really interesting, like you said, over the past couple years. But what's really been interesting is that since Major League Baseball kind of ignored it for so long, and then now all of a sudden they're into the middle of a season, and that's when they want to start trying to enforce this, and then let alone on the upcoming CBA negotiations that you have coming up after this season. But one thing that we found interesting is I saw this tweet. It was by Brandon Warring, is that the rolling MLB average for starting pitchers ERA by full weeks. So this is by week. And in April 5th, when pretty much this was all allowed and whatever, it was a 392. It went to 387 next week, 395, 439, a 396, 409, 410, 360. So those are about a 4 to a mid 4 or lower ERA. Well, over the past couple weeks, where this has kind of started being a topic, Major League Baseball said, "Hey, we're going to start coming out with something that's going to start punishing guys." The ERA has jumped up to the past 2 weeks, a 4.58 and a 4.64 ERA over the past 2 weeks.
yeah, and I think this coincides directly with the spin rate. Spin rate on average is down I don't remember the exact number, but I think they were saying about 200 RPMs on fastballs on average since change has been made. That's exactly what Major League Baseball is wanting to do. And to be fair to Major League Baseball, I do agree with you. Changing the enforcement of this in the middle of the season is wonky and probably not the best thing to do. But to be fair, before the season, they did say they're going to start cracking down on it this year. And also, this is something that's been illegal for a long time. So, changing their enforcement of it, maybe they should have done that a long time ago, but and not in the middle of the season. But I think this is something that's been going on a while, and this isn't a new rule or anything. It's just that they're saying, okay, we've had enough of it. We're going to enforce it now. The unfortunate side of things is that you do have some issues, as we'll talk about here in a second, with the changing enforcement of this and guys who are using some substances for reasons that aren't actually really improving their game, but improving just their ability to not hit batters and stuff.
Yeah, and in a big problem of this too is the way that Major League Baseball has changed the actual ball. So from what the ball was back in the 80s and the 90s, it had a little tack on it anyways. So it had a little bit of not sticky, but it what didn't feel slippery. That's one thing I should say, is that the balls now that they've been using the past couple years basically feel like you're picking up a pool ball and you're trying to throw a pool ball, 90, 100 miles an hour into a strike zone, and you kind of don't know where it goes. So that's part of it, and that the players they know that this is a thing, and then Major League Baseball has basically swept this under the rug for 4 to 5 years, and basically even people that have whistleblown about it, like, hey, this is an ongoing thing, like, look, Major League Baseball just didn't care. So of course it took over the game even more. But a big deal is that they changed the ball, and that now they're pretty much going with this like cue ball type ball, that they're trying to say, okay, well, look, now you're not going to get anything to help you even grip it, where like a sunscreen and a rosin mixture, that wouldn't help you really affect your spin rate. And if you don't know what spin rate really means, it basically makes your pitches either like look faster or break a little bit more than what they are intended to really look like. So on a spin rate, I think they said what, like 300 RPMs, or is like 2 miles an hour. Is that what they were saying? It is what
Something
it
like
looks
that.
like. It doesn't actually make the ball go that much more, but it
Yeah,
would
and
make a 96-mile-an-hour fastball look like a 98 or 99.
yeah, and a part of that's because that spin rate, it adds resistance,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it not drop as much. Because even a fastball, just based on the laws of physics, gravity will drop a fastball some. It's not gonna drop much, but it should drop some. But that spin rate helps resist that lowering. It adds some air resistance, and it keeps it, and it makes it an illusion to the hitters that it's coming at you harder because it's not dropping as much, and because that it's rising almost to some extent. Some guys, it looks to them like it's rising. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I think a lot of people talk about, that rising fastball that's been seen so much in the game, that pitching that high spin rate fastball up in the zone. That's been something that people have been struggling with hitting for a while now, and that's exactly why. Um, and you know, I think that the change to eliminate the stuff like Spider Tack is something that is needed in the game. I think that they'd have to do something to eliminate the Spider Tack thing. The only issue is, how do they do it, and how do they enforce it? But yeah, I mean, that spin rate, that's a killer for hitters. I mean, you look at the best pitchers in baseball the last few years, and every single one of them is, to a certain extent, that foreign substance, especially some of the real sticky ones like pine tar or that Spider Tack stuff. To a certain extent, those are more costly to batters, or more, they affect the game more than stuff like the juice ball or steroids or something did, and that's something that I think is needed to get out of the game.
Yeah, and like you said, that it the spider tack and that stuff is something that they do need to get out of the game. Like, it's been an issue and it's been evolving, and I think it's just gotten worse over the past couple years, indeed. But I part of it is Major League Baseball needs to just say, okay, look, if like this is going to be a thing that we're just going to say this is what you can use. Like I do feel that the pitchers need a little something to help them grip the ball. So a big thing that happened is and gives you a little bit of context as well as us is Tyler Glass now, who we've talked about on this show. I think even last week he was one of our players of the week, maybe. But he recently, or I think it was yesterday, he got pulled from his start early and came out and said that he has elbow issues. And they found out today that he has a torn UCL and might possibly need Tommy John, but they're going to try to avoid that at first. And he went on to this big old rant saying how he used to use the sunscreen and the rosin to help intensify his grip a little bit, not to help spin, but to help just grip the ball better because it does feel like this. And now that he, over his past two starts, one of them, he still pitched really well. He struck out 11 nationals, I believe. He said that I, instead of being able to hold the ball on the end of my fingers and hold it as an egg and be able to, not put so much stress on my arm, I have to put that deep into my hand now, and I have to force it so much more pressure on my fingers, which is putting more pressure on my elbow. And when you're releasing it, you're going from a full flex to a nothing automatic right away. And it might be a thing that starts causing issues because Major League Baseball is basically saying you can't use anything anymore. Like we'll give you, I don't even know if they're going to keep the rosin bag. I would assume they're going to keep the
They
rosin
are.
bag
Yeah,
out
the
there,
rosin bag stays.
but
That's been yeah.
the rosin bag alone doesn't really do much.
Yeah, and
Um,
a reminder, this isn't an actual rule change. These things are all against the we're
right.
all against the rules for years and years and
Correct.
years. It's an enforcement change.
Yeah.
They've
They
talked
just,
about, hey, we're gonna actually enforce this now.
yeah.
Is the change. So, or at least crack down on it because it has been enforced. I mean, you've had guys get suspended and pulled from games, kicked out of games for using foreign substances, but it has had to been called out by a manager, called out by one of the players that it got in the umpire. I mean, you've seen it. We had that Michael Pineda situation a few years ago. We've had, I think Will Smith had it happen, ironically, against the Braves, which was interesting. Since he's now on the Braves. And then you had Brian Mattis got hit for it a few years ago. So this isn't something that's never been used before, or it's never been enforced before. But it's been a select. It hasn't been cracked down on in the way that they're going to check every pitcher for it. They're going to look at. So one of the things that I think is important is for Major League Baseball to look at, especially, I mean, even in the middle of the season, it's going to be, hey, what does what are pitcher is the ball right now, is the ball at a level where pitchers cannot do, because it's entirely possible that this stuff is helping pitchers grip the ball and they're not as afraid to throw at a higher velocity too, in my opinion. I mean, you have a guy like Tyler Glass now is a guy who throws really hard. He throws in the upper 90s. So is some of the ability to throw that hard related to, and having to squeeze the ball so hard, if you're not throwing as hard, are you going to grip it better? Is it, what kind of grip are you just going to completely throw every other pitch out of or is it going to be one out of 100 pitches that you that slip? What's the big, what's the data going to look like? And I think that's something that Major League Baseball needs to look at a little bit more right now. But and I think one of the things they need to do is they need to test the substances when they pull a pitcher off the mound. I mean, when a pitcher comes out of the game and they look at, say, their glove and they find a substance, what substance is it? Because if it's Spider Tack, then that pitcher should be, suspended for more than 10 games because they know that they're not supposed to be using it and it's a competitive advantage. It's cheating. But Rawson and sunscreen, is that a competitive advantage? Some say it's not. A lot of pitchers say it's not. Some say it is. I guess. I mean, if it helps you grip the ball, I mean that's it's helping you grip the ball, and that might help you with control. I don't know. I don't know the data behind that. So, um, I think that's one of the things that's really interesting to look at is that how much does this actually some of the lower end substances like a rosin and sunscreen, how much does that actually affect a pitcher's ability to grip the ball? Does it help them control it? I mean, because if it helps with grip, it might help with control. So, um,
Well, I
but
mean,
obviously, we don't
in
want if it's going to cause injuries. If
yeah,
there's no pitchers that can do it, and it's going to cause injuries, that's why I'm saying they needs to be researched.
so I was
Because
saying
there's no
in a
pitchers with the modern day ball that can throw, and that's a problem that's not related to. I mean, if it's going to cause injuries, then that definitely needs to be changed,
yeah,
and something needs to be done.
in a sort, don't you want the pitchers to have a like better control of their pitches, especially nowadays? I understand with the whole, is it going to make somebody a pinpoint pitcher? But in the days now, especially of where we have more throwers than we do pitchers, somebody that just tries to throw the ball as hard as they can, and the ball they don't know where it's going half the time. I mean, like I said, I think more of the sunscreen rosin type thing should be something that MLB investigates and looks at and says, okay, we understand that this doesn't help you perform better, but it helps lower the risk of injuries not only to the pitcher but to the hitter by kind of knowing that you aren't just going to wildly
Yeah.
throw the ball. I mean, that wild throws are still going to happen, don't get me wrong,
Well, yeah,
but
they happen with guys that are using
yeah,
Spider Tack. But
exactly. So, but that's something that they should look into and say, okay, look, maybe we put this as a like a thing on the mound, like basically like what the rosin bag is, but maybe we make this a substance that we put on the mound and that the pitchers can use as we put it on there. And anything else, you use pine tar, you use spider tack, you use anything that is automatic grounds for, suspension, fines, everything from that point on. But if you use this substance that we know isn't going to improve your performance, then you will be fine. Because I do think that, especially the way the ball is, and hearing how Glass now especially talked about it today, basically saying that it's a cue ball, that it's basically just a pool ball, that they need a little something to be able
yeah,
to control it. Or Major League Baseball, you stop messing with the ball and you go back to the way the ball was. It had a little tackier surface on it, anyways. I mean, back in the day, people were still using substances. Like, let's not get that wrong. But if the ball had a little bit more tack to it, you wouldn't be able to tell them, like, hey, you can't use that now. Like, they would be like, most of them wouldn't need to use it.
yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. The Major League Baseball. The two things they need to do is they need to crack down on any of the cheating. Spider Tack to me is flat out cheating. I mean, that's
Yes.
just cheating. It's improving your performance by using a substance. Is completely cheating. It's no different from it. Well, it is different from the steroids in the fact that not everyone's using it. I mean, it's one of those things where um, I think that type of thing is flat out cheating. But you know it's one of those things that I think
I would
you
say
look at.
more pitchers in the major league now are using spider tack or anything than we would even imagine are using it.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of pitchers that use it for sure, and especially guys that if you, that magically add spin rate, because I don't think spin rate's something that you just add. I don't think you just add spin rate, and there's been so many guys, especially the star pitchers, that after this has come out. I mean, you look at the different guys. You look at Garrett Cole's spin rate has dropped. Shane Bieber's spin rate dropped a lot. Trevor Bauer's spin rate has dropped. And to be fair to him, he called Major League Baseball out on this a few years ago, and and then when they didn't really do anything, he started using it. So I mean, I get that to a certain level, even though I still probably say, well, he knew he was using something that wasn't supposed to be used, but still, it's one of those things that any pitcher that is using Spider Tack needs to shut up and deal with it because they're the ones that are the problem. Tyler Glass now, if Tyler Glass now is being truthful with everything, talking about how he doesn't need to add spin rate and he's just trying to keep getting grip of the ball, and he might be venting about, it's entirely possible. You have to say if it's truthful, which I think it probably is, but we don't know for sure if he's being truthful with it and stuff. I think that, well, first off, I think some of those guys should be paying his medical bills. And
Yeah.
and I think if that's what happened to him. So, but I like I like the change to the extent that the cheating needs to stop. I don't like it that you have if I don't like that Major League Baseball keep. I've been ranting about them changing the ball for years too. I mean they've needed to not change the ball every year. I mean, the juiced ball was stupid. It just added to the issues that are in baseball right now with nobody, the high home run total, low high strikeout, the three true outcome. All they did was just add to it with that. The juiced baseball was stupid. And to a certain extent, it was completely unfair to pitchers to all of a sudden, the way they were pitching is no longer viable because, guys are just going to hit pop ups that go out of the ballpark for home runs. So then I think a lot of pitchers probably started doing this stuff when that happened too. So it's just one of those things that they need to, they need to go back to, it's one of those things where some of the changes that Major League Baseball has made, these are the ones that are already coming back to bite them. And I think
Yeah.
that if you look at, that the changes that they made, this year, the changes that they're making right now are going to come back to bite them in the future. We keep talking about that, but these are changes that they made 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago that are coming back to bite them now. So, I think that they need to go back to a different ball that they had. Well, I don't know what was wrong with the ball in the mid to late 2000s. I don't think everyone was using Spider Tack in the mid to late 2000s. There might have been some guys using, you know, there might have been some guys using, rosin and sunscreen or something, but there wasn't, you know, everyone's known for years that pine tar or something or spider tack type stuff. I don't think they actually used spider tack because it wasn't really known to give an advantage for a while. But the guys who are using pine tar, I mean, everyone's known that was against the rules, and I don't think that's a real commonly used thing. So,
Right.
but anyways, I think it's a good change to eliminate that. I think that they need to do a little bit of research on what it's doing to, if the Tyler Glass now stuff is true, what they need to change some things about that. But I think that I think the path that they're on is good. And I tell you, there's one more pitcher that has been obviously using this stuff for a while that comes out online bitching about, the change. Then like I say, I mean, you know, I'm done with that. I'm tired of that. So, they're the ones that are the problem. So,
Yeah.
um, they're cheating and they're not working their way up the correct way. There's no integrity in what they're doing. And I think that they're the worst, and I think they should get suspended if they get caught with it ever again. Now that it's been enforced, so but it'll be interesting to see what Major League Baseball does in the future, and I hope that they're able to um, crack down on this without negative effects on stuff. So
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see with the CBA coming up that if maybe something is mandated in the CBA for this, for this concept or something about this, about maybe a substance like a sunscreen and rosin or something. It's just going to be something. There's going to be a ton of other issues with the CBA, but I wonder if it is something that, maybe they start investigating and during the CBA, the players or something start asking for it as well. So we'll definitely see. We'll keep up on
yeah,
that. But one thing we wanted to do also as well is we wanted to kind of look, since we got the first phase of, or the first all-star game voting results back so far, kind of look over who's leading at what positions in what league, and then fill out our own little ballot and kind of talk through what we would think a ballot should look like. So for right now, let's start in the AL, and we'll look at AL first baseman. Right now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is leading the vote with about 51% of the vote. Jose Abreu second, and Yuli Gurriel's third. I think Vlad Jr. is probably an easy AL
yeah,
first
he
baseman
is
vote.
absolutely, and just to mention a couple other first basemen because it's so easy to say Vlad Jr. I mean he's hitting 346 with a 451 on base, 697 slugging for a 206 WRC plus, which is better than Mike Trout's career best season. He's got 22 home runs, which leads the majors. I mean, the guy's been out of his mind this year so far. And he's a very possible triple crown winner in the American League.
Mm-hmm.
But to mention a couple other guys, Matt Olson's been really good. He's cut down on his strikeouts a lot, and he's actually hitting 290 on his average, which has been his lowest low point in his career. Has been he's a three true outcome guy. Has been his issues, and in an extreme fly ball, but he's hit 290 for average, 18 home runs, and he's always a good defender. Although his defense has been a little bit down this year. Um, Yuli Gurriel's been really good too. He's got a really good batting average. Walking more than ever. He's been good, and Jared Walsh has been outstanding for the Angels. He's really kept them afloat with the Trout injury, and honestly kept them in the race. I mean, they're back to 500, so
Yeah,
they're playing pretty well right now.
they've went on a nice little winning streak over the
Yeah,
past
they
little
did.
week and stuff.
They did.
So, well, let's look at the AL first baseman or the NL first baseman. Sorry. And right now, Max Muncy's leading that with about 23% of the vote. Freddie Freeman is in second with about 16% of the vote. And then Anthony Rizzo is third with about 12% of the vote.
Yeah, and I think those are the top three first basemen in the league so far this year. I think my pick would probably be on Max Muncy. Um, he's been really good this year. He's walking a ton. Um, hitting home runs. He's injured right now, though, right?
Yeah, he got an oblique. They didn't say it was
Yeah,
a full oblique strain. They just said it was side tightness. So
yeah.
they're not sure how long. We haven't heard much about if he's going to be out long term or if it's just going to be a short absence.
Right,
Um,
right.
but
So,
he started the year really struggling.
yeah,
So he could. I mean, he was walking a lot at the beginning of the year, but he wasn't hitting. I think for a long time he was batting 150 or 190 or something. So to be back up at what's he at now? He's at a 264 average with a 946 OPS. I
yeah.
mean, I think he's the pick too.
Yeah, the thing I find interesting in the first baseman race here, the top first baseman in the National League, the top five in wins above replacement all have a sub 300 batting average on balls in play, and including Freddie Freeman's 237, which is about 100 points lower than his typical uh, batting average on balls in play. So that explains some of his struggles. But you've got Max Muncy with a 163 WRC plus. He's got a 287 BABIP, which with his batted ball profile is probably about what he should be at. But he's been very good. Walks like I say, walks a ton. Been very valuable. 2.7 wins above replacement. Played good defense at first. He's been good, and the number five first baseman in wins above replacement has actually been Darren Ruff this year.
Oh
I
boy.
was looking at the list, and that's pretty dang crazy to me that Darren Ruff has been the fifth best first baseman based on WAR. So good for him on that. But yeah, interesting stuff here. I think Max Muncy definitely is the guy right now.
Yeah, so we'll pick Max Muncy there. So let's go over to the AL second baseman. Right now, Marcus Semien is leading that vote with 34%. Jose Altuve is in second with 20%, and DJ LeMahieu's third with 9%.
Yeah, Marcus Simeon I think has been the best guy here. He started a little bit slow and then just went on a tear. Jose Altuve has been really good. Some of the things that about him last year with his coming back from the Astro scandal, struggling and stuff. I think some of that's been alleviated a little bit by or the fact that he had to have the cheating to be good type stuff that people were saying has been alleviated. Although obviously I don't condone what they did, but I think he's still a good player, and a 288 average, 358 on base, 473 slugging, 132 WRC plus be good. But Marcus Simeon, I think, definitely is the guy here. And I think there's a pretty big drop off after him. And Nick Madrigal's actually been really good.
Yeah.
You
He
know,
just uh, he just actually
but
had season-ending surgery.
yeah, I was gonna say, but he got injured. So
Yeah.
you hate that because he was having a really good, strong rookie. Or I guess he's technically still a rookie. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Marcus Simeon, I think is the easy choice here.
All right. Well, we'll pick Simeon there. Let's go over to the NL second baseman. Right now, Ozzy Albies is leading that vote with 17%. Adam Frazier's in second with 12%. And Gavin Lux is at third with 10%.
Yeah, I think that this race here, and if you look at the leaderboards on like Fangraphs or something, Max Muncy's the guy that's leading here because he's played some second base, but obviously he's a first baseman, and Chris Taylor's also up there on the leaderboard, but he's not a first baseman. I mean, a second baseman right now. He plays all over, so I don't know what their positions are on, in the All Star voting, but I think this is between Adam Frazier and Ozzy Albies. I'll probably give a nod to Ozzy Albies. He's been really unlucky on balls in play at times this year, but a 122 WRC plus and elite defense at second base is hard to hard to hard to hard to turn down there. So I think I would probably give a nod to Ozzy Albies here.
Yeah,
Um,
see, the one I mean, you brought up Adam Frazier. He's having a fantastic year.
yeah,
In 333 or 332, he doesn't hit for a lot of power. He's only got
yeah,
2 homers, and he's playing on the Pirates, so doesn't get a lot of recognition. 863 OPS. I mean, he's having a fantastic season. Another guy too that not many people are talking about, and he's not in that top three. That's having a really good year. Another guy who doesn't hit for a ton of power, but that's Gene Segura. He's hitting in 335 this year. He's got an 856 OPS. That's right there with, right under Adam Frazier and right above Ozzy Albies, with Albies having an 827. And he's a guy who's not really getting much recognition at all, for the type of season that he's having so far.
yeah. The problem for Gene Segura is probably the fact that he's only played in 48 games. Which that's a pretty big drop off from what some of these other guys have been doing, and that he's his batting average on balls in play is really high, and a lot of small sample size can explain that more so than some of these other guys that have played 20 more games than him. I mean, you look at Ozzy Albies played 61, Adam Frazier 64, another candidate here, Jake Cronenworth's played 67. Ryan McMahon, who I don't know if he's on the ballot for second base,
He
has
is.
played. Okay, he is. He's
Yeah.
played 66 games. He's not far behind these guys either. His problem is his own base percentage is low, but um, interesting stuff. But I do give Ozzy Albies the edge here. I don't know about you, but
I
it's between him and Adam Frazier probably right now.
Yeah, I probably would go with Adam Frazier just because uh, he's
Pirates
having
have to have somebody, right?
they have to have somebody, and he's having a really, really great season for
Yeah,
him. I mean, he's having
yeah,
basically a career season for him.
yeah. 11% strikeout rate is pretty impressive in today's game. So
Yeah,
that's
but
really nice. But
for the base of this, we'll go with Albies.
all
We'll give you a brave on here right now.
right.
So let's go ahead and look at the. I think next up will be third base for the AL. And right now, Rafael Devers is leading that with 28% of the vote. Yohan Moncada is in second with 13%, and Alex Bregman is a close third with 12%.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't like Jose Ramirez because he's probably better than all those guys. But and this year he's been just as good, if not better, than all those guys. So I think I would go with Jose Ramirez.
Yeah,
But
he's having
that's
a,
just
a
me.
really great
Yeah,
year. And not many people are really recognizing him because of the way Cleveland's kind of, they weren't supposed to be as good, and he's kind of leading that charge. But I agree. It's Jose Ramirez or Devers. Devers is having a really good year as well, like
yeah,
282, 16 homers, a 913 OPS. But I don't think we want to do this and pick everyone that's in first place. So let's give the nod to Jose Ramirez in this
yeah.
one.
The thing about Jose Ramirez too is that his plate discipline has been incredible. 13% strikeout, 11% walk, and he also is playing good defense, which Rafael Devers is not a good defensive third
Yeah.
baseman. So he's not as bad as he was when he came up. He's improved there, but he's not a great defensive third baseman. So
Yeah.
um, that's something that definitely helps Jose Ramirez. But
Well, let's
yeah.
jump over to the NL third baseman, and we got Chris Bryant leading that one at 29% of the vote. Nolan Arenado second at 14%, and Justin Turner is in third with 12%.
Yeah, this is a very interesting race here. Problem is that Chris Bryant's not a third baseman anymore, so
Yeah,
why he's on the third base ballot, I won't know. I guess they did it before the season and decided to not change things. But if I was picking a third baseman here, I think it would probably be Nolan Arenado with Chris Bryant. I mean, with Austin Riley in the conversation too, along with Justin Turner. But I get Chris Bryant's had such a phenomenal season. If he's on the ballot for third base, I think you have to vote for him, even though he's played mostly outfield this year.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part. I don't know why they have it like that, but he should be on the outfield ballot, but he is on third base. But like you said, those guys, Austin Riley, I mean, he should get more, some more recognition on the vote because he's had, I mean, just as good of years as any of those top three guys getting votes, and probably better than Turner and
Yeah.
Arenado. And
He's been the best hitter out of those guys.
yeah,
He's been a better hitter than Turner or Arenado. His
yeah,
defense, especially as of late, he played okay defense for the first, however many games of the season, and then the last like 2 weeks, defense has been awful.
yeah.
So,
Let's jump over to shortstop, though. The
all right.
AL, we got Xander Bogaerts leading that vote with 31% of the vote. Bo Bichette is in second with 15% of the vote, and third is Tim Anderson with 11% of the vote.
Yeah, and I think that there is absolutely no way possible that you could say that Xander Bogaerts isn't the best shortstop in the American League right now. The guy's just an incredible hitter. Does hits the all field, hits for power, second in home runs for shortstops behind Bo Bichette, but with much better plate discipline, average, you know, uh, walk rate, everything is better than Bo Bichette outside of just power. So I think it's been very very good for Xander Bogaerts. Carlos Correa's had a good season too. Um, you know, you look at his numbers, and I mean he's looked like the Carlos Correa that was the number one pick. And he's been healthy this year, which is something that's held him back a lot in his career. Um, Isaiah kind of Falefa's up there on the WAR leaderboards, which is very impressive. He's been very good this year, um, especially in the field. At the plate, he's showed enough improvements to to not be a defense only guy. He's a little bit like a couple of the years that Jose Iglesias has had, that where he hit for a lot of contact and stuff. But yeah, I definitely lean to Xander Bogaerts. He hit another home run tonight too. He's just a very very good shortstop.
Yeah. Do we even need to talk about the NL shortstop? I mean,
I think so.
who knows? I mean, I was being sarcastic, but Fernando Tatis is leading that vote with 40%. Javier Baez is second with 13%. Corey Seager's in third with 9%. A guy who's not on that top three and is really interesting is Trey Turner.
Yeah.
I mean, why is Trey Turner not up in the voting a little bit more?
Well, Javier Baez is getting the voting because the Cubs fans and the Nationals are bad. So
Yeah,
I think that's a big deal. But um, Fernando Tatis Jr., obviously is the best hitter out of all these guys. But I tell you what, Brandon Crawford's having a good year at shortstop. He's playing really good defense back, like he had for so many years when he was the Gold Glover in San Francisco. And I mean, his bat's been alive this year. 15 home runs, a 140 WRC plus, which doesn't trail. It trails Fernando Tatis Jr. But when you look at Fernando Tatis Jr.'s defense and how many errors he's made, he leads the league in errors. You know, in some ways, I think Brandon Crawford's been just as valuable to his team. In fact, he's got a 2.3 WAR compared to Tatis Jr.'s 2.4 WAR. So, but if you look at you look at Fernando Tatis Jr. also as having missed some games. Um, he's hit 19 home runs. He hit his 20th tonight. I think he's got to be the pick here. Although for his first All Star game, by the way. Although Brandon Crawford deserves recognition, and as does Trey Turner. He deserves a lot of recognition too. So
yeah. If we had to pick, I would probably go Tatis, Turner,
yeah,
and then Crawford.
yeah,
Crawford's right there, but yeah, I guess we
yeah,
have to pick Tatis really. So,
yeah.
so this one's going to be one of the more interesting ones, and that's going to be the catcher position. And right now in the AL, it's Salvador Perez is leading that with 43% of the votes. Yasmani Grandal's at 9%, and Martin Maldonado's at 7%.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Martin, I don't understand that one.
yeah. I mean,
Martin Maldonado has negative point 0.1 wins above replacement right now.
I mean, I
So
don't even want. I think it's just
hey, I tell you
Perez.
what, for a franchise that's hated as much as they are right now, the Astros fans have come out to vote in this
Yeah.
because it seems like the Astros have been voted high everywhere.
Hmm.
But I don't know if it's Astros fans plus a bunch of people joking or what, but um,
Yeah.
That's been interesting. So
But Salvador Perez is the only one remotely close to being a all-star in for this position. I mean, everyone else, I think the highest batting average
yeah.
outside of that is Christian Vasquez at like a 254 this year, but his OPS is like 645.
Yeah, you look at a couple guys who haven't played too many games, but I mean, you also look at, I mean, Yasmani Grandal is
Mm-hmm.
sitting there at a 132 WRC plus. Nobody's voting for him because he's got a 154 average, but he's got a 400 on base percentage.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'd probably vote for Yasmani Grandal. He's played way fewer games than Salvador Perez, who has played 65 games, and he still put up just as much wins above replacement as Perez. But Mike Zunino's actually been pretty good. Um, with his 40% strikeout rate, but he's been totally good. He's a great defensive catcher. You look at maybe I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of these guys behind them have been defense first catchers or guys who haven't played every day or whatever. So, I really think it's between those top four or top three or four, and you probably do go with Salvador Perez, but you know, just because I can't imagine that enough fans are going to vote for a guy with a 154 batting average to get in just because of looking at the batting average. But
Oh yeah,
obviously,
and
Asmani Grandal has been, you know, good this year. I mean, 132 WRC plus. That means he's 30% above the league average as a hitter, and he's got a 139 BABIP, which is the lowest I've ever seen by a very large margin. So
yeah, and like you said, nobody's going to vote for him. I mean, that just shows. I mean, he's only got 9% compared to Salvador Perez's 43% right now. So,
yeah,
yeah, we'll go with that one. The NL, I think that's where it's a little bit more interesting. I mean, the clear and obvious pick is going to be Buster Posey,
you have to pick Buster
because he's
Posey.
had such a great year and he's taking 30% of the vote. But the more interesting fact to me is that Yadier Molina's second with 16% of the vote, and Wilson Contreras is third with 11% of the vote. JT Real Muto's nowhere on that list. Will Smith's nowhere on that list, and I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I get the Cubs is because of the Cubs fandom, but Yadier Molina, I guess, as well. But where, I mean, JT Real Muto and Will Smith have had two really good
Yeah.
seasons.
Well, there's a big difference between who's actually all-star worthy and who fans are voting
Right.
for, because every fan in baseball, or even all the casual fans, everybody knows who Yadier Molina is, but not everybody knows who Will Smith is. Like,
Right.
that's one of the things that even though Will Smith's won the World Series last year and is a starting catcher for the Dodgers, Yadier Molina is probably a future Hall of Famer. Wilson Contreras is a guy who was on the Cubs World Series team, one of their top players on that team. I mean, but I mean, you have to vote for Buster Posey here. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy has been
Absolutely.
so good. He's got a 329 average, 400 on base, 571 slugging, 166 WRC plus. He's put up 2.5 wins above replacement in 45 games, and obviously 45 games hurts him a little bit, but the Giants have been resting him a lot, trying to keep him healthy. He's a 30, how old is he? 30, 35 or
Yeah, I
something?
think he's 35. Yeah.
35, yeah, 35-year-old catcher. It's hard for him to play every single day, but Buster Posey's got to be the pick here.
Yeah, he absolutely does. So let's jump over to the outfield now, and we'll jump at the American League first. Right now, Mike Trout's leading that with 15%. Aaron Judge is at 11%. Byron Buxton's at 8. Adolis Garcia's at 7. Teoscar Hernandez at 5. And then the rest are Randall Grichuk, Verdugo, Randy Rosarena, and Michael Brantley at 4 or 3%.
So
And we get to
here's
pick
the deal.
3 here, by the way.
Here's the deal. Byron Buxton and Mike Trout were both really good, but they only played 24 games for Buxton and
Yep.
36 games for Trout.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they were high on the leaderboards, but the small sample size helped them a lot too, because both of them had 415 plus BABIPs. In fact, Mike Trout was running a career high strikeout rate at 28% when he went down with his injury. So I kind of take them out of the consideration just
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't played enough games this year to put them in there. But I look at Cedric Mullins as being one of the guys I feel like is pretty much a lock for me.
Okay.
He's been incredible. 374 BABIP, but a 321 average, 389 on base, 524 slugging, 9 home runs. You know, 12 stolen bases. I believe leads outfielders in the American League. 152 WRC plus. Good defense. He's been very, very, very good. 3 wins above replacement. I like him a lot. I think you look at Aaron Judge. He's cut his strikeout rate a pretty good bit this year. He's down to a 24% strikeout rate, which compared to his career 30% is really solid. 15 home runs, 2 wins above replacement, and to be honest, I like uh, both of the A's guys. I don't know which one we to pick between. You got Ramon Laureano and Mark Canha. They've both
Well,
been really good.
and I got a couple more. I got about three more options
Yeah,
I mean, before you even started saying names, I picked out these three guys before any of the names you picked even, and you haven't even said them yet. And that's Alex Verdugo, one of them. He's having a really good season, 290, an 808 OPS, 8 homers, 28 RBIs. Another guy who's had a good bounce back season has been Mitch Haniger. His batting average doesn't look that great at 259, but 16 homers, 40 RBIs, and
130
828.
WRC plus,
Yeah,
just about.
130. And he's been a guy who's battled injuries a bunch of times. So he's one guy that I looked at. And the other one was Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, 293, 10 homers, 41 RBIs, and 825 OPS. I mean, those are all three guys as well that, on top of the names you said, that are I think are very much have to be in consideration for an all-star spot. Maybe not on our
Yeah,
ballot, but in
yeah,
consideration in
they're
total.
absolutely in consideration, and I mean you got other guys too that should be in consideration. I mean you know, um, you look at Kyle Tucker. I think he's a guy that should be in consideration. He's been really good. 130 WRC plus. He's played a lot of games. Some of these guys haven't played that many games. Adolis Garcia, hitting all those home runs. I think he's got to be in consideration. Um, but if it was me, I would go with probably Judge, Canha, and Cedric Mullins. But um, with Trout, Trout and Buxton probably going to get votes just because
Hmm.
of who they are, and obviously Buxton was so good to start the season before injury. Trout, same thing. And Trout being the best player in baseball. I just have a hard time, voting for guys that have played 25 and 36 games like those two guys have. So, but we'll see. I think that they're both, I think when they come back, they'll be two of the best players in baseball, and I think Trout will be the best outfielder. And but right now, I mean, I have a hard time voting for those guys. So,
All right. Well, we'll go with Canna in that third spot. So let's look over at the NL outfield, and that is Ronald Acuna Jr. leading that with 16%. Nick Castellanos at 11%. Jesse Winker at 9. Mookie Betts is fourth with 8. And then it's Juan Soto, Chris Taylor, both with 4%. Bryce Harper with 3. Trent Grisham and Ketel Marte also with 3.
yeah, and I think that when you look at this, I think that the fans have gotten it right so far. I think Nick Castellanos, even though he does have a 400 plus BABIP, has been really, really, really good. 180 WRC plus, 3.4 wins above replacement. He's actually been good in the outfield. Only minus 1.5 defensive, value based on the Fangraphs metrics, and which is really not that bad compared to his career numbers. And the fact that he's playing a negative value defensive position. He's been pretty good in the outfield. Ronald Acuna Jr. Everybody knows about him, how good he is.
Yeah.
Just incredible talent. Jesse Winker, he's been so deadly against right-handed pitching. Hit a lot of home runs. A guy that he's really a platoon guy that has played so good. That he's out there, and obviously on the WAR leaderboards, you got Chris Bryant, but he's in the third base ballot. So for some
Hmm.
reason, so I'll look at some other guys. I mean, you look at Chris Taylor. I think he's on the
He's
is
on
he
the
on the outfield?
outfield. Yeah.
He is. Okay, Chris Taylor should definitely be in consideration. You look at I don't know. I think those are the guys that I would put in consideration. But I think that the top three there are pretty. I think it's
They've
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the top three have been other guys who have played well, but missed a lot
Brian
of time.
Reynolds too.
Yeah, Brian Reynolds, but Starling Marte,
Yeah.
he's been good, but he's missed a lot of time. Cattell Marte, same thing. I mean, he
Trent
just
Grisham.
recently came back. Trent Grisham as well. I there was one other one I was looking at that was having a really decent
Bryce
season
Harper
too.
was playing really well, before his issues.
Yeah. So
Um,
I think they got the top three right. I mean, it's Winker, it's Castellanos, it's Acuna for me. Um, if I will say one gripe about this dang ballot though, it's that they give you a designated hitter for the AL and they don't give you a hitter or a utility bat for the
yeah,
NL. They should give the NL something because if they did, I think Chris Taylor would be the easy one in there for me.
yeah. Pinch hitter of the year, Pablo Sandoval.
No, pinch hitter of the year against lefties, Albert Pujols.
Well, okay, whatever.
Okay,
Sure, whatever.
sorry. Let me get my fandom out there. Okay, I just um so we've got that. Pretty much only place we have left now is the designated hitter for the American League. And right now that voting is, let me pull that up. It's Shohei Otani is leading that at 33%. JD Martinez is second with 18, and Jordan Alvarez is third with 9.
Yeah, and I think the answer here is pretty obvious. So,
Ryan
Shohei,
Mountcastle.
well, Ryan Mountcastle. No, I mean, I think Shohei Otani.
Yeah,
You know, and the fact that he's also the the talent he is on the mound, which obviously we've talked about a lot how he needs to refine his game on the mound a little bit, but the talent that he's got, I'll look at Shohei Otani, and you have to pick him. I mean, he's been the highest wins above replacement guy at the plate too, over JD Martinez. Um, but JD Martinez has been very good. A lot of the more traditional voters will go for him because of his 309 batting average. But Shohei, 9 stolen bases. He's a pitcher. He's
yeah,
got 9 stolen bases. I mean, the 17 home runs obviously is impressive. Now, don't get me wrong, but 9 stolen bases for a pitcher. He's not just a slugger. He's a pitcher, and he can. I mean, 10% walk rate. That's come up a lot from early in the season when he was a lot lower. On that metric, his strikeouts are pretty high, but it's for a guy who's hitting a lot of home runs, not the end of the world. This guy, he's just such an all-around talent, and
yeah,
even if you can make an argument that JD Martinez has been better as a designated hitter, but even if that was the case, Shohei Otani's got to be your pick. You got to get him in the All Star game. He has to be in the All Star game. I mean, he has to. He's such a good talent.
yeah.
You have some other guys you can look at. I mean, Nelson
Nelson
Cruz is
Cruz. Yeah,
good. I mean, Trey Mancini's been so good since the first month. Um, Jordan Alvarez is obviously good. All these
Stanton's
guys that
been
are
decent.
all these guys that have held down a designated hitter position for long enough to be qualified hitters. All of them have been pretty dang good. Just because you look at you look at the fact that all as a designated hitter. I mean, you have to be good to have that every night as a hitter. So all of them are going to have 120, 130, 140 WRC pluses. Um, or they're guys who have in the past been really good but have just struggled this year. So I definitely look at Shohei though out here for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Shohei has to be the pick for
Yep,
everything you just said.
no doubt.
So, sort of looking over our ballot, we the voters have got it right a lot of the times for what the votes are like so
Especially in the
far.
National League.
Yeah, and mind that you on an all-star ballot, you are not allowed to vote for pitchers.
Yep.
That is mainly from players and managers and stuff like that. So no pitchers on here. But as our ballot looks so far, it's in the American League, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for first base, Marcus Simeon for second, Jose Ramirez for third, Xander Bogaerts for short, Salvador Perez for catcher, Aaron Judge, Cedric Mullins, and Mark Canna for outfield, and Shohei Otani for DH. And then at the National League, we got Max Muncy, Ozzy Albies, Chris Bryant for third base, Fernando Tatis, Buster Posey, Acuna, Castellanos, and Winker. And I
Yep.
think that's first place in the first place and top three in the outfield for National
Yep.
League. So I think we're right on with everybody.
Yep.
So
I think and I think that there's some things that can change before the All-Star game, and
yeah,
but
absolutely.
I definitely am. I definitely feel good about the guys that we picked. I think they're, and for the All Star game, there's going to be a lot of the guys that we talked about that are second, third, that we
Yeah,
were, they're going to get reserve spots. So,
absolutely.
they're going to get named All Stars. And, even if JD Martinez beat out Shohei, which I doubt's going to happen, one of the other one's going to get an All Star spot at that position. Or,
Hmm.
if you look at, you look at some of the other, in the National League, you look at like at third base, I would imagine that one of the actual third basemen or at least probably two of the actual third basemen get spots. Although Chris Bryant, deserves the All-Star starter nod if you compare him to the players at third base. He hadn't played third base in 3 months, or 2 months, so um, it's one of those things. But it's good, good stuff. I'm excited to see. I think the All Star game has lost some of its luster in the past several years, but I think that it's a good honor for a lot of these players, especially when they win the fan votes, because it's the fans picking them. It means that the fans like them. They're likable people mostly, and I think a lot of times if it's guys who are people just don't like, they won't get picked, obviously. So um, I'm a I think it's exciting for a lot of these players. So
Absolutely, it is. Well, to wrap up our show, let's jump over to our players of the week, which we do every week. So the hitter that I'm going to go with this week is Bo Bichette. It really can be the whole Toronto Blue Jays team. I mean, they put up a big game, especially on Saturday against the Red Sox. I think they put up 18 runs or something. Teoscar Hernandez had 2 3-run homers. But Bo Bichette's going to be my pick this week. He batted 419 batting average, a 455 OPS, a 210 weighted runs created, 2 homers, 10 runs, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. It's just all around really solid week from Bo Bichette. Like I said, this was more of a talking about everybody on that Toronto Blue Jays staff. And I mean, easily could have been Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but we've talked about him so much that I decided to go with Bo Bichette this week.
yeah, and for my hitter, Bo Bichette's had a great week, by the way. I'm behind that too. But for my hitter, um, I don't know if I've picked a guy this year that had 0 home runs as my player of the
Yeah.
week, but this guy also had 0 strikeouts. So
Yeah.
Michael Brantley's been really good. He's hit 600 this week which is pretty crazy. A 317 WRC plus. Michael Brantley's a guy who's been such a good contact hitter for a long time. Something that he's kind of a throwback style player. He hits for a lot of contact, hits a lot of doubles. And gets on base at a good clip, and that's kind of his skill set. And I look at Michael Brantley, and guy who he's up there in his years too. I think he's 35 now, so um, dealt with a lot of injuries early in his career, but I think he deserves some recognition this week. It's hard to go in the big leagues this day and age. It's hard to go a whole, even though he's only played 5 games this week because of their schedule, but it's hard to go 5 games without striking out. So, I think I wanted to give some props to Michael Brantley.
Absolutely. Well, for my pitcher of the week, I went with Zach Wheeler. He had 1 start this week. Usually, you like to hit one of those 2-start week guys, but he's just been so fantastic in general. But he had 8 innings pitched this week, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 12 strikeouts, a FIP of 0.15 and an XFIP of 1.46 this week. Um, he's been so great this season in general, and this is just another great start and great week for Zach Wheeler. And hopefully he's starting to get a little bit more recognition for the stuff that he's put up this year, because it's been a fantastic season.
Yeah, and Zach Wheeler's been very good. I think that start was against Atlanta,
It was.
um, the guy I wanted to pick, and I could have picked a few different guys. I looked at Carlos Rodon a little bit. Jacob deGrom was nutty as per usual. Um, but I wanted to go with a 2-start guy who is part of the Nolan Arenado trade in the offseason, and that is Austin Gomber. The strikeout numbers on Austin Gomber aren't that great this week. 6.23, but he didn't walk a single guy. 2 starts, 13 innings. I think one of those starts was actually an 8-inning start too. And .69 ERA. I thought that was really impressive. He gets the ball on the ground a lot. This week it was at a 61% clip. That's always been his calling card. But good for Austin Gomber. It'd be nice to see him blossom. And I know that 8-inning start was in Coors, so I don't remember
Yeah.
looking at the box score. So
It was in San
anybody
Diego.
who can, yeah, against San Diego, anybody who can go 8 innings against San Diego in Coors and not give up a run, um, that's that's pretty impressive. So I have to give some props to Austin Gomber for that.
Well, let alone that, he also only gave up 3 hits, like you said, no walks and 4 strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, no walks in either start. He had a 5-inning start as well in the past week and didn't give up any walks in that one. So
yeah, but three
good for Austin
hits,
Gomber.
3 hits to the Padres in Coors in 8 innings is that's really fantastic. So
no doubt. So
So, well, that's going to wrap it up for this show this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys are out there voting for your All-Star game ballots. We kind of gave you what ours would look like. And let us know what you think about the pitchers and then the substance deal that's happening right now, and what you guys would maybe see happen to the game. But you got
Yeah.
anything else you wanna
Yeah, just to recap that part of it, I hate that that's how all going on right now. I hate it. I think it's been botched by MLB to have that come up just now. But hopefully good comes out of it. And the last thing we want to see is guys get injured or have major issues from this. But we also want the cheaters to to pay the price, and or at least to not be allowed to do this stuff anymore. So um, I think some good changes are necessary, but at the same time, you got to make sure you're making the right changes. So, but we'll see. We'll see what comes out of it. I'm sure that there will be a lot more talk about that in the next couple weeks. So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Bat Flip Podcast, and we'll catch you guys next week.
thank you very much.